February 22nd, 2026, 4 a.m., deep in the mountains of southern Mexico, hidden inside a compound carved into the Sierra, the most wanted crime boss alive is asleep. Two governments have chased him for over 10 years. The DEA put a $15 million bounty on his head, one of the biggest rewards in U.S. history. Interpol knows his name. The CIA has drones watching from the sky. And still, for years, this man moved like a shadow. Only a few old photos of him even exist. Every wanted poster shows the same blurry picture of a man nobody can catch. His name is Nemeo Ruben Guerra Cervantes. The world knows him as Element. By sunrise, he will be injured and fading inside a military aircraft over the Mexican highlands. By nightfall, chaos will spread across 6 states. This is his final 24 hours. He was born July 17, 1966, in a tiny mountain village in Michoacan. No power, no paved roads, a place most maps ignore. He left school after 5th grade and worked in the fields under the hot sun, one of 6 brothers in a family with almost nothing. In his teens, he crossed into California without documents, chasing survival. In 1986, San Francisco police arrested him for stolen property and a firearm. The mugshot showed a skinny kid, not a mastermind. He was deported. He came back, arrested again in 1989 for narcotics, deported again. He returned anyway. By 1992, at 26 years old, he was moving small amounts of heroin in the Bay Area with his older brother, Abraham. One night at the Imperial Bar, they met buyers for a $9,500 deal. The cash looked too perfect, stacked too clean. He leaned in and told Abraham, "These men are cops. Walk away." He was right, but it was already too late. 3 weeks later, federal agents arrested both brothers on trafficking charges. In court, Nemeo made the move that changed everything. Abraham already had 2 serious convictions. A third could have meant life behind bars. So Nemeo pleaded guilty and took the blame to protect his brother. He asked the judge for mercy. She gave him 5 years. He served 3 in a federal facility in West Texas, a prison that mainly held undocumented immigrants. In 1997, at 31 years old, he was deported back to Mexico. Convicted felon, banned from the United States for life. Most people in that spot fade away. Nemeo didn't. He joined the local police force in Jalisco. Badge, uniform, front row seat to how law enforcement really works. Former DEA agent Kyle Morey later said this wasn't about turning over a new leaf, it was about learning the system from the inside. After leaving the force, he joined a rising criminal group as an enforcer. When major leaders were taken down in 2010, the organization splintered. He didn't fall apart with it. He made alliances, built new connections through his wife's family network, and started constructing a powerful operation from the chaos. He called it the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG. Within 10 years, authorities said the group had a presence across all 50 U.S. states and more than 40 countries. By 2019, the DEA believed the organization was responsible for moving a large share of illegal drugs into the United States. Reports estimated his personal wealth in the hundreds of millions, possibly more. In 2025, the Mexican government placed the cartel's assets in the tens of billions. The avocado picker from Michoacan had built a criminal empire that rivaled small economies, and still, no one could track him down. Unlike other crime figures who chased fame, Nemeo avoided the spotlight. No interviews, no public appearances, no verified recent photos. For years, only a few old, grainy images existed. The public mostly heard about him through leaked audio messages filled with threats aimed at rivals. Experts, including Edgardo Buscaglia of Columbia University, argued the group built influence quietly, using political connections and social backing while staying out of view. That low-profile strategy helped him survive. He moved constantly through the mountains of western Mexico, never staying in one place for long. Reports described layers of security around him, including trained guards and lookout teams watching rural roads. For years, that system worked.
But in 2015, violence brought intense pressure. During a military operation, cartel members attacked a government helicopter, forcing it down. In the weeks that followed, multiple police officers were killed in coordinated attacks across western Mexico, shocking the country. Then on June 26, 2020, in Mexico City, gunmen ambushed police chief Omar Garcia Harfuch on a major boulevard. He survived, despite being shot, but others lost their lives. The attack sent a clear signal that the conflict had reached the nation's capital. He survived. From his hospital bed, still recovering, Omar Garcia Harfuch posted online and directly named CJNG as responsible. He healed, but he didn't forget. By 2026, he had become Mexico's Secretary of Security. The man once targeted was now leading the mission against the group behind it. When news later broke that El Mencho was dead, Harfuch posted just one line: "Our recognition to the Mexican Army and Air Force." No celebration, no long speech, just 4 calm words that spoke loud. While pressure closed in, El Mencho was also fighting a private battle. By 2019, Mexican intelligence sources said he was dealing with serious kidney disease. Health problems don't pause for power. Treatment requires routine care, medication, and monitoring. That's hard to hide in remote mountain territory. Reports said a private medical facility was built in an isolated village within cartel-controlled land, allegedly for his treatment. In 2025, Mexico's security secretary publicly confirmed the illness was ongoing. Investigators understood something important. Medical care creates routines. Routines create patterns, and patterns can be tracked. By 2022, analysts were questioning whether he was even still alive. Some splinter groups claimed he was gone. The organization showed signs of internal strain. Then in the 15 months before his reported death, key family members were arrested. In November 2024, his son-in-law was detained in California. In February 2025, his brother Antonio was extradited to the United States. One day later, his brother Abraham, the same brother he once tried to protect in court, was captured again by Mexican authorities. The circle was tightening fast. March 2025, his son, El Montecito, was sentenced in U.S. federal court to life plus 30 years and ordered to forfeit more than $6 billion. 1 month earlier, in February 2025, his wife, Rosalinda, was released from prison in Mexico and placed under close surveillance. By early 2026, people believed to be part of his inner circle were arrested, extradited, or being monitored. The network around him was shrinking. He was reportedly dealing with serious health issues, and he was running out of trusted allies. In December 2024, the U.S. State Department raised the reward for information leading to his capture from $10 million to $15 million. It became one of the largest active rewards tied to an organized crime figure. Pressure was rising fast. In January 2026, Washington announced the launch of the Joint Interagency Task Force Counter Cartel, focused on mapping cartel operations and targeting leadership structures. He was reportedly at the top of that list. Around the same time, Reuters reported that U.S. intelligence agencies were providing aerial surveillance and detailed intelligence assessments to Mexican authorities. Former officials described a compiled target package that combined multiple intelligence sources and was shared directly with Mexico. The search had become highly coordinated and serious. This wasn't simple cooperation. It looked like a coordinated hunt. Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, was in a tough position. For years, she had criticized the strategy of targeting cartel leaders. Her argument was clear: removing the boss doesn't end the criminal group. It can splinter it and create more instability. She had said that publicly more than once. But pressure from Washington was building. trade threats, strong diplomatic messages, public demands for results. Capturing El Mencho became more than a security issue. It became political proof that action was being taken. The stakes were high on both sides of the border. Then attention turned to Puerto Vallarta's mountain region near Tapapa, a quiet colonial town a couple hours from Guadalajara. Pine forests, stone streets, a peaceful weekend getaway on the surface. But U.S. Treasury records from 2015 showed certain businesses in the area were sanctioned for alleged cartel-linked financial activity. Authorities believed his organization had operated there for years. If he was there, it wasn't random, it was familiar ground.
By the night of February 21, 2026, Mexican Army Special Forces had intelligence placing him in that region. The mission was reportedly approved at the highest levels. Troops moved in before midnight. The official objective, according to Mexico's Ministry of Defense, was to capture him alive. What remains unclear is how they located him. Was it a tip connected to the $15 million reward? Intercepted communications, surveillance patterns, medical logistics that created a trackable routine. Officials have not revealed the source. Neither Mexico's defense officials nor U.S. agencies have shared those details. But one thing is certain, after years in the shadows, the search had finally reached his door. They planned to take him alive. That's not how it ended. Before sunrise on February 22, 2026, in the mountains of Jalisco, Mexican Army Special Forces moved in from multiple directions. National Guard units secured the perimeter. Air support circled overhead. Officials from the Attorney General's office were embedded in the mission. This wasn't a rushed operation. It was months of intelligence and planning coming together in one decisive moment. When troops entered the compound, gunfire erupted. Authorities say armed members of the group fired first, triggering a heavy exchange in the hills. By the end of it, 4 suspects were dead. 2 were detained, and several others were seriously wounded. Among the injured was the main target of the operation. Inside the compound, soldiers reported finding military-style weapons, including launchers and high-powered firearms. It looked less like a hideout and more like a fortified base. 3 members of Mexico's armed forces were also wounded during the clash. The scene was intense and fast-moving. Protocol was clear. Transfer the high-profile detainee immediately to Mexico City. A military aircraft was prepared. Wounded and under guard, he was placed on board with plans for federal custody and prosecution, but he never made it. While in the air, en route to the capital, he died from his injuries. After more than a decade evading capture, the man at the center of one of the largest international manhunts lost his life in military custody above the same mountains that had shielded him for years. He was transported on a Mexican military's aircraft, but he never stepped off in Mexico City. After confirmation of his death, Omar Garcia Harfuch, the same official who survived the 2020 ambush, posted 4 words: "Our recognition to the Mexican Army and Air Force." No press conference, no victory speech, just one short message after 6 years of waiting. Within hours, violence erupted across parts of western Mexico. Authorities reported coordinated road blockades in multiple states, with vehicles set on fire and highways shut down. In Jalisco alone, dozens of blockades were reported by the afternoon. State officials activated emergency protocols. Public transportation was paused. Schools were closed. Residents were urged to remain indoors. Major areas of Guadalajara grew quiet fast. At the international airport, operations were disrupted as flights were canceled or delayed. Several U.S. airlines temporarily suspended routes to the region. Reports also confirmed unrest at a detention facility in Puerto Vallarta, where one guard lost his life. The U.S. State Department issued a shelter-in-place advisory for American citizens in several affected states. From Washington, officials confirmed that U.S. intelligence agencies had supported Mexico's efforts. Public statements described him as one of the most powerful organized crime leaders of his era. Meanwhile, smoke from burned vehicles still hung over parts of Jalisco. For years,
President Claudius Scheinbaum had argued that removing cartel leaders can create power struggles instead of peace. The concern has always been that when one figure falls, internal fights can follow as different factions compete for control. What happened next would determine whether this operation brought stability or a new wave of uncertainty. She said it before taking office. She repeated it after. President Claudius Scheinbaum built her security philosophy around one belief: targeting individual cartel leaders can look dramatic, but it doesn't always solve the deeper problem. Still, on February 22, 2026, under heavy international pressure to show results on drug trafficking, she authorized the operation that ended with the death of the most wanted cartel figure in the hemisphere. Her public statement was measured. She praised the armed forces. She urged citizens to stay calm. She stressed that most of the country was functioning normally. Officials did not describe it as an assassination. The formal position was clear. It was a capture mission that became fatal during an armed confrontation. That distinction mattered politically and legally. By midnight, global news networks were showing images of burning vehicles, blocked highways, and silent airport terminals. Guadalajara, set to host FIFA World Cup matches just months later, looked shaken. The president, who had long warned that removing cartel leaders could spark instability, was now facing that exact test in real time. Security analysts say one thing is almost certain: the organization itself will not simply disappear. Authorities have long described it as decentralized, with regional cells operating independently. That structure was designed to survive arrests or leadership losses. Experts warn that when a powerful figure is removed, internal competition can follow as different factions attempt to gain control. One name reportedly mentioned in intelligence circles is Abraham Jesus Oseguera, known as El Yogut, believed to be in his late 20s. Open sources have linked him to an enforcement wing within the organization. These reports remain unconfirmed, but speculation about succession has already begun. History offers a comparison. When Joaquin El Chapo Guzman was captured, the Sinaloa cartel did not vanish. It splintered. Rival groups fought for territory. Violence rose before new balances formed. With operations allegedly spanning dozens of countries, the stakes here could be even broader. And it all traces back decades to a courtroom in 1992 when a 26-year-old man accepted a prison sentence to shield his older brother. Loyalty shaped that moment. 33 years later, that same brother was arrested again as the final phase of the manhunt closed in. He began in a remote village with little formal education and few resources. Over time, authorities say he built one of the most powerful criminal networks of his era. Two governments spent years pursuing him. In the end, after a dawn raid in the mountains, the long search was over. He ran for years. This time, there was nowhere left to go.